The Wasp Factory. Chapter 8, The Wasp Factory, Part 3. I spent the rest of the day in the house, reading books and magazines, watching television, and thinking all the time. I could not do anything about Eric from the inside, so I had to change the direction of my attack. My personal mythology, with the factory behind it, was flexible enough to accept the failure it had just suffered and use such a defeat as a pointer to the real solution. My advanced troops had had their fingers burned with but I still had all my other resources. I would prevail, but not through the direct application of my powers. At least not through the direct application of any other power, but imaginative intelligence, and that, ultimately, was the bedrock for everything else. If I could not meet the challenge that Eric represented, then I deserved to be destroyed. My father was still hauling his way up ladders to windows with the paint and the brush clenched between his teeth. I offered to help, but he insisted on doing it himself. I had used the ladders myself several times in the past when I was trying to find a way into my father's study, but he had special locks on the windows and even kept the blinds down and curtains drawn. I was glad to see the difficulty he had making his way up the ladder. He'd never make it up into the loft. It crossed my mind that it was just as well the house was the height it was, or even might just have been able to, or he might have just been able to climb a ladder into the roof and be able to see through the skylights into the loft. But we were both safe, our respective citadels secure for the foreseeable future. For once, my father let me make dinner, and I made a vegetable curry we both would find acceptable while watching an open university program on geology and on the portable television, which I had taken through the kitchen for that purpose. Once the business with Eric was over, I decided I really must restart my campaign to persuade my father to get a VTR. It was too easy to miss good programs on fine days. After our meal, my father went into town. This was unusual, but I didn't ask why he was going. He looked tired after his day spent climbing and reaching, but he went into his room, changed into his town clothes, and came limping back into the lounge to bid me farewell. "I'll be off then," he said. He looked around the lounge as though searching for some evidence I had started some heinous mischief already. Before he had even left, I watched the TV and nodded without looking at him. "Right you are," I said. "I won't be late. You don't have to lock up." "Okay. You'll be all right then?" "Oh, yes." I looked at him, crossed my arms, and settled deeper into my old easy chair. He stepped back so that both feet were in the hall and his body was canted into the lounge, only his hand on the doorknob stopping him from falling in. He nodded again, the cap on his head dipping once. "Right, I'll see you later. See you behave yourself." I smiled and looked back to the screen. "Yes, Dad, see you." He said, and with one last look around the lounge, as if he's still checking for vanished silver, he closed the door, and I heard him clicking down the hall and out the front door. I watched him go up the path, sat for a while, then went up and tested the door to the study, which, as usual, as always, was so firm it might as well have been part of the wall. I had fallen asleep. The light outside was waning, some awful American crime series was on the television, and my head was sore. I blinked through gummed eyes, yawned to unstick my lips and get some air into my still tasting mouth. I yawned and stretched, then froze. I could hear the telephone. I leaped out of the seat, stumbled, almost fell, then got to the door, the hall, the stairs, and finally the phone as quickly as I could. I lifted the receiver with my right hand, which hurt. I pressed the phone to my ear. "Hello?" I said. "Hi, Frankie lad. How's it going?" said Jamie. I felt a mixture of relief and disappointment. I sighed. "Ah, Jamie, okay. How are you?" "Off work. Dropped a plank on my foot this morning and it's all swollen. Nothing too serious, though. Nah, I'll get the rest of the week off if I'm lucky. I'm going to see the doctor tomorrow for a quick line. Just thought I'd let you know I'll be at home during the day. You can bring me grapes, something if you want." "Okay, I'll come around maybe tomorrow. I'll give you a call first to let you know." "Great. Any more word on you know who?" "Nope. I thought that might have been him when you called." I thought you might think that. Don't worry about it. I haven't heard anything strange happening in town, so he probably isn't here yet." "Yeah, but I want to see him again. I just don't want him to start doing all the daft things he did before. I know he'll have to go back, even if he doesn't. But I'd like to see him. I want both things. You know what I mean?" Yeah, it'll be okay. I think it'll all be all right in the end. Don't worry about it." "I'm not." "Good. Well, I'm off to buy a few pints of anesthetic down at Arms. Fancy coming along?" "No, thanks. I'm pretty tired. I was up early this morning. I might see you tomorrow." "Great. Well, take care and that. See you, Frank." "Right, Jamie. Bye." "Bye," said Jamie. I hung up and went downstairs to turn the television over to something more sensible, but got no farther than the bottom step when the phone rang again. I went back up. Just as I did so, a tingle went through me that it might be Eric, but no pip sounded. I grinned and said, "Yeah? What did you forget?" "Forget? I didn't forget anything. I remember everything." "Everything," screamed a familiar voice on the other end. I froze, then gulped. Said, "Why are you accusing me of forgetting things? What are you accusing me of forgetting?" "What? I haven't forgotten anything," Eric gasped and spluttered. "Eric, I'm sorry. I thought you were somebody else." "I'm me," he yelled. "I'm not anybody else. I'm me. Me. I thought you were Jamie," I wailed, closing my eyes. "That dwarf? You bastard. I'm sorry. Then I broke off and thought, what do you mean, that dwarf? In that tone? "He's my friend. It isn't his fault he's small," I told him. "Oh, yeah," came the reply. "How do you know?" "What do you mean, how do I know? It wasn't his fault. He was born like that," I said, getting quite angry. "You only have his word for that." "I only have his word for what?" I said. "That he's a dwarf," Eric spat. "What?" I shouted, scarcely able to believe my ears. I can see that he's a dwarf, you idiot." "That's what he wants you to think. Maybe he's really an alien. Maybe the rest of them are even smaller than he is. How do you know he isn't really a giant alien from a very small race of aliens, eh?" "Don't be stupid," I screamed into the phone, gripping it sorely with my burned hand. "Well, don't say I didn't warn you," Eric shouted. "Don't worry," I shouted back. "Anyway," Eric said in a suddenly calm voice, so that for a second or two I thought somebody else had come on the line, and I was left somewhat nonplussed as he went on in level, ordinary speech. "How are you?" "Eh?" I said, confused. Fine. How are you?" Oh, not too bad. Nearly there. What, here? No, there. Christ. It can't be a bad line over this distance, can it? What distance, eh? Can it? I don't know. I put my other hand to my forehead, getting the feeling that I was losing thread of the conversation entirely. I'm nearly there, Eric explained tiredly with a calm sigh. Not nearly here. I'm already here. How else could I be calling you from here? But where's here? I said. You mean you don't know where you are again? Eric exclaimed incredulously. I closed my eyes again and moaned. He went on. And you accuse me of forgetting things. Ha! Look, you bloody madman. I screamed into the green plastic as I gripped it hard and sent spears of pain up my right arm and felt my face contort. I'm getting fed up with you calling me up here and being deliberately awkward. Stop playing games. I gasped for breath. You know damn well what I mean when I ask where here is. I mean, where the hell are you? I know where I am, and I know where I am, and I know you know where I am. Just stop trying to mess me up about it, okay? Sure, Frank, Eric said, sounding uninterested. Sorry if I was rubbing you up the wrong way. Well, I started to shout again, then controlled myself and quieted down, breathing hard. Well, just don't do that to me. I was only asking where you are. Yeah, that's okay. Frank, I understand, Eric said evenly, but I can't actually tell you where I am or somebody might overhear. Surely you can see that, can't you? All right, I said, but you're not in the call box, are you? Well, of course I'm not in a call box, he said with a bit of a edge in his voice again. Then I heard him control his tone. Yeah, that's right. I'm in somebody's house. Well, a cottage, actually. What? I said. Whose? I don't know, he replied. I could almost hear him shrug. I suppose I could find out if you're really that interested. Are you really that interested? What? No, yes. I mean, no. What does it matter? But where? I mean, how? I mean, who do you... Look, Frank, Eric said tiredly. It's just somebody's little holiday cottage or weekend retreat or something, right? I don't know whose it is, but as you perceptively put it, it doesn't matter, all right. You mean you've broken into somebody's home? I said. Yeah, so what? I didn't even have to break in. In fact, I found the key to the back door in the guttering. What's wrong? It's a very nice little place. What's wrong? It's a very nice little place. Aren't you frightened of getting caught? Not much. I'm sitting here in the front room looking down the drive and I can see way down the road. No problem. I've got food and there's a bath and there's a phone and there's a freezer. Christ, you could fit in all station? You could fit an all station in there. And a bed and everything. Luxury. An all station, I screeched. Well, yes, if I had one. I don't, but if I did, I could have kept that in there. As it is. Don't, I interrupted, closing my eyes yet again and holding up my hands as though he was there in the house with me. Don't tell me. Okay, well, I just thought I'd ring you and tell you I'm all right and see how you are. I'm fine. Are you sure you're okay too? Yeah, never felt better. Feeling great. I think it's my diet. All. Diet. All. I can't read. Listen, I broke in desperately, feeling my eyes widen as I thought of what I wanted to ask him. You didn't feel anything this morning, did you? About Dawn? Anything? I mean, anything at all? Nothing inside you? You don't feel anything. Oh, you don't feel anything. Well, did you feel anything? What are you gibbering about? Eric said slightly angrily. Did you feel anything this morning very early? What on earth do you mean, feel anything? I mean, did you experience anything at all about dawn this morning? Well, Eric said, I measured stones and slowly, funny you should say that. Yes, yes, I said excitedly, pressing the receiver so close to my mouth that my teeth clattered off the my teeth chattered off the mouthpiece. Not a damn thing. This morning was one of the few I can honestly say I experienced not a thing. Eric informed me urbanely I was asleep. But you said you didn't sleep, I said furiously. Christ, Frank, nobody's perfect. I could hear him start to laugh. But I started. I closed my mouth and gritted my teeth once more. I closed my eyes. He said, Anyway, Frank, old sport. To be quite honest, this is getting boring. I might call you again, but either way, I'll see you soon. Ta-ta. Before I could say anything, the line went dead, and I was left fuming and belligerent, holding the telephone and glaring at it like it was to blame. I considered hitting something with it, but decided that would be too much like a bad joke, so I slammed it down on the cradle instead. It chimed once in response, and I gave it another glare, then turned my back on it and stamped downstairs, threw myself into an easy chair, and punched the buttons on the remote for the television repeatedly through channel after channel, time after time, for about 10 minutes. At the end of that, I realized that I had got just as much out of watching 3 programs simultaneously: the news, yet another awful American crime series, and a program of archaeology, as I ever got from watching the damn things separately. I hurled the control unit away in disgust and stormed outside in the fading light to go and throw a few stones at the waves.